What's up, podcast listeners? We are back, excited, ready to rock and roll. This is Andy and Drew. Welcome to the What's Up Castleberry podcast.
Hey, Drew, how are you?
I'm well, brother. How are you, my friends?
Good. Just so that folks know, we are not in the studio for this intro. This is another Zoom call. We want to be safe. So our guest is via Zoom. We're Zooming as our numbers continue to rise. But hopefully it won't be long before we can be back together and with better audio as well.
That's exactly right. Well, thank you, producer Robin and James, for making us sound as good and comfortable and soothing to the ears for our listeners. Folks, we are so glad.
That's a little bit of a stretch, Drew.
Folks, we are
they're good, but I don't think anybody can make us sound that good.
Yeah, no, I'm trying my best to, just pop us up, keep us going, even if it's for my own encouragement. Folks, we really appreciate you tuning in each and every week with us. Andy and I by no means are experts, but we really have a heart for Castleberry. We're local pastors. We're dear friends. We live in Castleberry. We talk about Castleberry and Seminole County related issues. We love to have guests and friends from our immediate area, and we've got just a fantastic interview with State Representative Jason Brodeur today. Looking forward to that conversation in a few moments.
Yes.
But Andy, in light of just America, 4th of July, Independence Weekend, not the too far past from when this will go live, is it hard, my friend, my colleague, my brethren, as a man born in England, to celebrate a holiday where we basically were traitors and we kicked your country's butt?
Well, that's one way to put it. Kicked your country's butt. You should really apply for that job at the United Nations with those diplomacy skills.
Probably not getting a lot of calls to come serve in England anytime soon.
It is a funny holiday. Honestly, as the years go by, it's not as weird as it used to be. A couple of thoughts. Honestly, it took me a long time to understand what the 4th of July was all about, because it's not something I remember being taught in my education much about in England, right? And I guess that makes sense because history is written by the winners. But when I was first here learning about 4th of July, I suppose it was a little bit awkward. What was really awkward, though, was all the bad jokes that people would make, right? It almost kind of like gave people an excuse to, dump all their poor English loser jokes on me. And so I kind of learned a little repartee. Is that what I'm saying?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
What's the word I'm looking for?
Repartee. Yeah.
Repartee. That's right. French. We don't get on with them either. So I used to joke that in England, we actually celebrate the 4th of July as well, but we call it Thanksgiving, because the real secret is we were glad to get rid of you, and we're quite happy with our queen now. And again, there's maybe lots of Americans right now saying, hey, we wish we had a queen.
Sure.
So yeah, it's funny. I love living in the U.S. There's so much about what we stand for as a country that I'm so proud of and pleased to be a part of. But yeah, England's my home. It always will be. Love it there. Obviously, love my family there, and I'm a big fan of the Queen as well. She is a remarkable, remarkable lady at 96, just speaking with such poise and elegance and stability as she does. But now, I just celebrate with everybody else.
Yeah, you eat a hot dog, you throw on some red, white, and blue. That's kind of what you try to avoid, getting hit by a firework. That's essentially what 4th of July means to us. It's my wife's favorite holiday, though. Andy, yeah. I will tell you, yeah, she has red, white, and blue literally from the top of her head to the bottom of her feet. She loves to wear the colors of the country. And one little personal pride for our family is that my brother-in-law, her brother Mitch, served in our military, and so that's an important thing in which we recognize and are thankful for for his service. And thank you to all who have served our country well.
Absolutely. Drew, where did you, were you at the beach for 4th of July?
We were at the beach, yes. And there was an order in New Smyrna based on everything going on in the world. They didn't want big crowds of people gathered for fireworks. So there was an order, mandate saying no fireworks on the beach, which, of course, if you know anything about people in
yeah, we saw several police cars go down the beach yesterday.
Wow.
The other day from our hotel room as well. But I will say, you're right that there wasn't any kind of big gatherings, but it was almost like rather than going to places, people invested in fireworks. So all you had to do was step outside, and so these incredible displays. It was really pretty cool.
It was neat. Yeah, it almost felt like a little individual communities kind of doing their own show. And I think that's a good transition as any to talk about our Castleberry in the news. When we talk about community, there is a really unique little treasure that's brand new to Castleberry. Folks, if you have not been by Castleberry Elementary School recently, our Castleberry in the News segment is about the free little library that has been recently set up right in front of Castleberry Elementary School. Lindsay Feist, who was a previous podcast guest and is the PTSA president for Castleberry Elementary School, she organized, along with the PTSA, the free little library, which is a little structure right in front of the school where children, adults can pick up books, they can drop off books and kind of share different things that they've been reading, and encourages our kids and community members to get out and read. Andy, what do you make of the free little library? Have you used it yet for any reason?
I haven't. Is it a kid book library, or is it for grown-ups too?
I think it's primarily geared towards children, but
it's good because that's about my reading level anyway.
There you go.
So I haven't checked it out, but I love it. Honestly, I'm just wondering if they'll take some of my theological textbooks too, which are taking up space in my office as well, but probably not. But I love the concept. You and I are both big readers. I think it's probably one of the ways we continue to stretch ourselves and grow ourselves, and that's so important. If we can develop good reading habits in our kids, that really bodes well for society as a whole. So I love it. In fact, when I was in England, probably 4 or 5 years ago, with everybody having cell phones now, they were repurposing the red phone boxes as little community libraries as well, where people could just drop things off and pick them up. So that was where I first heard of the concept, and I thought it was fantastic then. And I love that Castleberry has got its own. I mean, I think it's a project that could really develop beyond the elementary schools into other areas of our community as well.
That's fantastic. And yeah, especially with so much uncertainty about what's open in regarding to groups gathering. So, for example, perhaps the library will not be open all the time, or wherever else you would get books, local bookstores, etc. Obviously, we want to encourage people to go out and visit those places. But if you cannot get out, or just choose, I'm going to be safe, walk on down, bike on down, drive on over to the free little library in front of Castleberry Elementary School. And thank you to the PTSA for putting that out. You can share books as well as pick up a book for free. All right, Andy, let's take a moment now to answer a listener question. If you have a question or a comment for us, we love to hear from our listeners. And yes, the common joke running now is that my mom is the one who sends in these questions. Well, whether or not that's true, that's for your imagination, but we need to hear from you. We want more and more of your feedback. What do you care about? What are you passionate regarding? How do you want to get involved? And so you can leave us a question in a multitude of platforms. You can go to our Facebook page, our Instagram page, both titled What's Up Castleberry. You can go to our website, which is whatsupcastleberry.com. There you can also listen to previous episodes that we've referenced. You can also go to this podcast feed and leave a review. Andy, only 5 stars, right? 4 or 5. We'll take a 4-star, I guess.
We'll take a 4.
Yeah, 4 or 5 stars, but leave a comment, leave a question for us. And then that's the way in which you can interact with us. And today's question, and I think this is perfect timing, I won't tell you who gave us this question, but it fits the bill because we have come to the end of our sponsorship with our podcast sponsor. Today's question is this: what are the qualifications, gentlemen, to be a podcast sponsor? What would the benefit be for me to be a sponsor on your podcast? Wow. Toss us up a softball. It's like they knew we needed to talk about this. Andy, what are the qualifications? What's the benefit?
Isn't it amazing how that happens, Drew? Well, I think we're looking for sponsors who love the community and want to make the community better, right? A partnership is a relationship. It's not just what can you do for us? It's really what can we do for you as well? How can we create a win-win between us? What we want to do with this podcast is we want to build bridges. We've said it before. We'll keep saying it within our community. Lots of great things going on that we think everybody needs to know about. Lots of great things happening at very local neighborhood levels that we want to shine a spotlight on. There's some great things happening in our city, and we want to communicate that. So we're looking for a sponsor who can share that same vision. You know, we can put them before a few hundred people every week. We will give some time on air. We'd love to offer an interview about your business as well. That's stuff that we can do. And in return, we just ask for a small donation, not so Drew and I can retire one day. This is a labor of love for Drew, Robin, and myself, and James and the rest of the team. But so that we can further build bridges. So the return for us is that maybe we'll ask for a little bit of money or something in kind, and we will use that to promote the podcast, to strengthen our community, to build bridges, and to make this a better place to live. So really, if you're interested in developing our community, if you love Castleberry, want to see her grow, want to shape the reputation and the identity of our city, then we would be a great place for you to promote your business on.
That's right. Well said, Andy. And all I will add is that podcasts are one of the fastest growing mediums for people, particularly younger folks. The word millennial gets thrown out a lot, which includes producer Robin and myself. But a lot of folks listen to podcasts. And as Andy said, we've got several hundred who are in kind of our queue. And as a city that is rapidly growing within Central Florida, what greater way to kind of get the word out about your business? And so it's a win for you as somebody who can be kind of shared with the collective whole of Castleberry. But I would totally and completely agree with Andy that the real win, and this is why we love Travis and Kelly Financial Solutions, as well as Yesha and her company, is the fact that there is a real heart to see Castleberry, the community of Castleberry, become more of who we were created to be, to make more connections, to build those bridges, to deepen relationships. And both of our sponsors to this point have done that and have a desire to do that. As much as be a profitable business, they also desire to be profitable in making and maintaining relationships. So we hope to have you. We hope to hear from you. Reach out to us. Let us know if we could partner with you and you be a sponsor with us. So that was a great question. Thank you, anonymous question podcast guest friends. You can reach out to us anytime. We'd love to hear from you and your feedback. In fact, let's right now, before we get to our guest, hear from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Kelly Financial Solutions. Travis Kelly is in the business of helping people with their mortgages, helping people get placed into homes. Travis has been in the area for 15 years, and he and his team at Kelly Financial Solutions is dedicated to helping folks find a quick and easy way to get a mortgage and into a home. The words quick and easy, that doesn't really apply to a lot of life right now, but it does for Travis and his team. They want to help follow up with those who have questions. He says right here on their website, they have free consultations, and they will make sure to help find you exactly what you need in regards to your home. So check out Travis and his great team at Kelly Financial Solutions at their website, www.wearecleartoclose.com. That's wearecleartoclose.com. We'll be back with our guest. All right, welcome back to the What's Up Castleberry podcast. We are excited to have a guest of local fame, local influence, a Seminole County boy, born and raised, president of the Seminole Regional Chamber of Commerce, a local city official, actually not even local, state city official. Jason Brodeur is here today. Welcome, Jason, to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. Excited to be here.
Jason, it looks like you're sitting in the Parks and Rec office there. That is quite a background.
And I think background wise for me, this is Leslie Knope's desk. And I think that more appropriate for me would probably be to be at Ron Swanson's desk, because if I was at Ron's desk, that would signify my appropriate feeling of government and why I ran in the first place. So we'll change it to Ron's desk for a little while.
Listeners, you can't hear or can't see us, but this is very impressive. Jason has a green screen or a little setup in his office, and he's currently going back and forth. Andy and I, who, as you know from listening to us, we are not the most tech savvy. We are overwhelmed by this. This is great. This is elevating our game for sure.
Hey, did you guys see in the newspaper recently that there's a touring set that's coming to Orlando? They're bringing some of the rooms from Friends and setting them up, and a couple of other sitcoms, and you pay like $20 and you can go visit these rooms. I mean, we don't need to. We just need to get Jason on the Zoom.
The Google has done a fantastic job recently of making sure folks have appropriate number of sitcom-related backgrounds. So if you like the Golden Girls or you like Friends or whatever, they've got the Golden Girls kitchen, they've got the Friends living room, they've got the Simpsons. So if you the animated series, if you have a green screen background, you can get all that for less than $20. You can put yourself right there.
That's awesome.
Wow. Very nice. Well, Jason, tell us and the listeners a little bit about yourself. You're born and raised in Seminole County.
Well, I was born in Volusia, Halifax Hospital, but it was raised in Seminole County. So Jackson Heights Middle School, Oviedo High School. And as it relates to Castleberry, my mother taught at Castleberry Elementary for 25 years. So for any of your listeners, if you had Mrs. Brodeur, that was my mom. And so big place in my heart, grew up in the area. My buddies and I would, instead of going out and causing mischief every night, our favorite thing to do when we were in high school was we would go to Secret Lake Park and play basketball. And so we had, much to the disdain of, I think, probably the Parks and Rec folks that worked there of the late 80s and early 90s, we would find a way to go flick the lights on at like 9 o'clock at night and just go play basketball. And so we big long time history in Castleberry. Love it. And like I said, grew up in the area and came back after college. I went to the University of Florida for undergraduate and master's program, and have been back since, last 15 years or so, and ran for office. And I was lucky enough to serve in the state House of Representatives from 2010 to 2018. And so I represented the eastern part of Seminole County, basically everything east of 1792. So I had half of Castleberry and everything out that way. And then now I'm running for state senate, and so that seat opens up. Senator David Simmons is term limited. It's an open seat, and so we're running to represent that. And that's all of Seminole County and part of Volusia. And so for somebody who was born in Volusia and lived in Seminole County, seems like a nice fit for representation there. So we'll see how it goes. But long time history, both Seminole County and Castleberry.
That's great. It's probably you're probably one of the reasons we've got so many light ordinances in Castleberry.
about no bright lights after 9 o'clock. Then, if you were
that is all local. That is not me. That's not the state. That's all. That's your mayor and your city council.
Your misspent high school years is breaking into Secret Lake Park. I mean, that's something to do with
the hangover from all of the no ordinances of the 90s is coming back to haunt us now. I'm more recently responsible for the flyover at 1792 and 436. So that was done after my first couple of years in the legislature, and that was the busiest intersection in all of Seminole County, and was really, as much as we didn't like the effects of the ingress and egress on some of the local businesses right there on the corner, in terms of getting through that intersection, I think for residents that was a huge difference in what we did. And so while I can't claim any of the light ordinance stuff, some of the transportation or traffic stuff, we did have a direct impact in, which was good.
Well, Jason, we can thank you for that, not just for the traffic flow improvements, but also helped us kind of clean up the city as well. One of the things that Drew and I often talk about is that how Castleberry used to have a difficult reputation. Drive-through, Hassleberry, strip clubs. Putting that flyover in took away a lot of the things that built that reputation and were great.
Yeah, when I was in high school, that was always like the dirty secret, was that intersection, because that's where all the naughty clubs were. Yeah. And part of doing that really had eminent domain and created an opportunity for the city to kind of clean that area up. And it was really the last part of that in Seminole County. 1792 had a handful of places, but growing up here, that was always, when you were going to the Altamont Mall, you would kind of shield your eyes. That was the place that was adults only over there.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Yeah, and we love how that's changed our city. So Castleberry obviously is a big part of Seminole County, and Drew and I often on this show advocate for the great things that are happening in Castleberry. What would you say are some of the great things, some of the strengths that are happening in Seminole County right now?
So county-wise, when I was growing up, we were just the suburbs to downtown Orlando. It was basically, you lived in Seminole County, we had great schools, but if you wanted a good job or a real job or a career, you had to go to downtown Orlando or Orange County. And over the last 15 years or so, we've really turned that around. It's possible to live in Seminole County, to grow up here, go to A-rated schools, elementary, middle, and high school, go to a world-class secondary institution, whether you go to Seminole State or UCF, you still live in Seminole County and go, and get a job with a Fortune 100 company and never leave Seminole County. With Deloitte here and Verizon, and you've got the world headquarters of AAA, and you've got Dixon Ticonderoga, and you've got all these companies that are here in Seminole County now, it is a totally different complexion than it was when I was growing up. And I think that's a wonderful thing. Now, one of the places where Castleberry plays in that is that with that growth, with that boom of these bigger salaries, with the competition really globally, not just nationwide, but globally for cost of living, you can have a wonderful waterfront property in Castleberry that's gorgeous, that you cannot get if you were in Maitland. You cannot get if you were in any other part of Central Florida, because you'd be priced out of the market. And so with Castleberry, you have the highest number of waterfront homes available in all of Central Florida that are still reasonably accessible to folks that want to enjoy the best of Seminole County. Otherwise, you're going to be living way out east, or you're going to be living out to the western side of the county on a 1 acre lot that is probably not affordable for most folks.
I love that. That's actually one of the conversations we had with a previous guest, talking about the low mortgage rates and the climate we're in right now. And folks, this is a great time to jump in and find a home here in our.
I don't know if you guys realize, you may be part of the problem, that people are actually going to discover Castleberry, and then all of a sudden all the rates are going to spike.
Well, we've already bought in Castleberry, so that's good for us.
So you guys are okay with it. That's right.
You want property value up for sure.
Yes. Jason, absolutely.
Jason, you've served in the business sector. You mentioned businesses and the impacts they have on local communities. You've obviously also mentioned serving in politics. How would you speak to how those two realms kind of intersect and support one another, as well as maybe differences between? Sure. One of the things that you learn in business is that if you
solve an unmet market need, you will be successful. And so just make sure whatever you're doing is meeting the needs of your consumer. And certainly in politics, it's the same thing, that if you're taking care of your constituents, if when they call your office, you can get them services, they will take care of you as well. I think we get very sideways very often when folks in politics believe that the best thing they can do is be the fastest talking head on television to give their opinion about something. And I think that doesn't serve the constituency well. In business, you have to make sure you're serving your customer first. And if I was in politics only to make sure I was the fastest person to get to Fox News or MSNBC or whatever you're watching, I don't think that would be serving the constituency wisely. And so I think there's a lot of similarities in those two, that if you remember why you're doing it, you're in business to serve the customer. They are, I would say the customer is king or queen. They may not always be right. Certainly if you're a business owner, sometimes that's a difficult proposition. But if you're always making sure you're serving those for why you're in business, it's very similar to being in politics, to make sure you're there to help constituents get the services they are eligible for, they need. It's times of crisis. Maybe it's through no fault of their own. This is maybe the darkest time of their whole life. That's why you do this. It's not so that I can make sure I get my op-ed printed, or to make sure I can run to the fastest TV station and tell them what I think about something that I may only have half the facts on. And so I think those are a lot of the lessons that are similar between the business and government sector, is you just got to remember why you're doing it.
Yeah, I love that. We often talk on the podcast, and one of the kind of goals that we have is that we want to kind of raise up some more leaders in our city, in our county, who can lead well. What are some of the leadership principles that you've learned from being in your governmental leadership role?
I think it's no different. I grew up as a sales guy carrying a bag. It's almost like if you remember a door-to-door encyclopedia salesman.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of very humbling things that happen when you have roles like that. And I think part of becoming a good leader is simply being there. 90% of everything is showing up, and it's no different in sales. Volunteer first on a couple of different boards. We need them. You would be surprised how receptive organizations that serve the community would be for somebody that wants to get involved or wants to get engaged. And from there, you get exposure and access to two different kinds of people: the people you're serving, and then the fellow leaders around you that are helping lead that delivery of service. From there, just be there, be present. When somebody says we need volunteers this Saturday to fill in the blank, go do that and get experience doing that. And from there, you're going to see everything you need about a vision, or creating a vision for what our community needs and how you may be able to fill that niche. And so very often people lament, either I don't have the skills or I don't know. Volunteer some time. You will figure it out very quickly, and you will be very appreciated for your contributions to the community, because very often there are folks that have needs that don't get them met because people just don't know to be available.
I love that, particularly in what we do, Jason, in the faith community. Service is such a key factor in making an impact in the community. And I think we're so quick to want to look to solve problems, but to what you said exactly, being present, being consistent, and serving can open doors that were previously closed. I love that.
And the opportunities that present themselves from there. So often the things that are in the legislature, they tell you that the bills or the laws that you're most proud of will never have your name on them because of the nature of how you pass a law, and it's very complicated. And just like in service in the community, some of the things you're most proud of that you have done, you didn't spearhead. There wasn't a press release, but you were there and you participated and you were able to help with that outcome. And it gives you such a feeling of pride of your community and outcome. And if you remember, it's about the service. It's not about you. That is when you make the biggest impact.
Well said. Well, speaking of pride, one of your accomplishments that we highlighted at the top of the conversation is that you serve as the president of the county's largest chamber of commerce, the Seminole Regional Chamber. Could you share about that experience and some of the things you're proud of? And
so I started life career-wise at Procter & Gamble. So if any of you in your homes have Tide or Crest or Charmin or Scope or Pringles or Pantene or Dawn or Cascade, or just go down the list.
I think I've got all of those actually.
Yeah, right. And you can tell what the
I think I've used all of them today actually.
you can tell the impact of the experience when I said we make all of those, like I still work there. I don't. But it's part of the pride of, and in working in a company that large, you never worry about whether or not you've got enough money to make payroll. There are 110,000 people work there. We make payroll every month. You never worry about whether or not performance and pay raises. There are all these things that are set that you just jump in, almost like a game of double dutch jump rope, where you're just trying to figure out the right time to jump in, and it just goes. In running or in working with a local association, membership-driven organization that is cash-based, it's a very different consideration. It's much more personal, and without doing it correctly, you will run out of money for paychecks and power and rent and things like that. And so I think that experience really is much more like most of our business owners in the community. 80% of the businesses in America are small businesses. And if you're running your own small business, it's very easy to be empathetic about the challenges that are faced by those small businesses when now I have to run one as opposed to being part of a larger corporation. And so it's been a fabulous experience. I can't say enough good things about the people that I work with. They're fantastic. We are located in the Seminole State campus at Heathrow in Lake Mary. And to get to work, we have to drive by all those businesses I just mentioned that have kind of changed Seminole. So my employees every day get to look at other places they could probably work if we didn't treat them as well as we do, and we didn't have the culture that we had. And so I'm mindful of that as well, that's another big reason to stay on your toes, so to speak, as a small business owner, is that in Seminole County, we have so many competitive businesses for talent that we've really got to be good to our own folks. And I think that raises the bar for everybody locally, that because we've now got great places to work on every corner, you've really got to be good to your employees and make sure you're staying on your toes.
That's great. Very, very true. So, Jason, you spent some time in the Florida legislature on some very important committees. What does the average Castleberry resident need to know about the legislator that they probably don't know?
That it is not at all what you think it is. Is that it is, it's funny. Just like everybody else, I go to high school and take a civics class, and you find out how a bill becomes a law, or you watch your cartoon on the electric company and see the bill go into Congress and everything. It's not how it works. It's totally different. The internet has changed a lot of stuff. We're much more transparent than we ever were. For as big a knock as people like to have on government, out of all 50 of the state legislatures, Florida is the most transparent in terms of sunshine law. All of our meetings are online, live. If you have the internet, you are as informed as I am about anything going on in Tallahassee. All you got to do is tune into the Florida channel, and you can see everything I see. And so I think there's a lot that's available. And once people have that information, they can make better informed choices. I will tell you that every news outlet, no matter which ones you follow, have their own spin on things. And so if you want to be an informed resident, you really just got to watch for yourself and make your own opinions. And every time, I'll read headlines that talks about what an idiot the legislature is. And I go, hey, wait a minute, I'm one of those idiots. And you read it, and they only have half the information that you do. And so there really is, every time you read a headline that says, I can't believe somebody was that dumb, odds are there's another side of that story that has more information that either wasn't reported or they weren't aware of or whatever. And so I think the average resident just needs to know there's really wonderful people who came from great backgrounds doing these things from all over the state of Florida who are pretty well informed. And if they're doing something you don't agree with, it's odds are likely that they just have different information than you do. And so I would encourage everybody to just do a little bit more digging because it's available in Florida. There's no backroom weirdo stuff going on. There was historically, sure, years ago, all of that was possible. But Florida is probably, like I said, it's got to be the most open and transparent government in America, state government in America, given all the laws that we have and the access that we have. And so if there's ever any time that somebody thinks something is just not right, dial in. The information's there. And if they have any questions, call their legislators. All of them have phone numbers. All of them have offices. In Seminole County, you have 3 members of the State House of Representatives and 1 senator. Call one of the 4 of them, depending on where you live.
I love that. Jason, a quick follow-up then to that. Because we live in a day where it feels like so often people speak for those, especially in positions of leadership, and there's a little sound. Andy and I joke we're in a soundbite culture, right? Where you get one phrase or one sentence.
I call it the bumper sticker culture. It's the same
bumper
thing.
sticker.
It's on a bumper sticker. That's it. Like,
what is your general response, or how do you, if you're misquoted somewhere, what's your general posture? How do you try to move towards communicating clearly what you are trying to say if you're missing?
Yeah,
I think a lot of it.
Drew asked that question on behalf of a friend. I mean, it's never happened to you, right, Drew?
I think a lot of it, my experience is that if I'm not sure about how something's going to be taken, is that I have to frame it very wholly when I respond the first time. Is that if I think it's a trap question, if I think it's a gotcha question, I have to make sure that my sentence can't be parsed to have half a phrase or half a word, because it's happened to me. I've been doing this for a decade, and you think you just have the greatest interview ever, and the headline comes out and you go, yeah, those are words I used, but not in that order. And so you want to make sure that you're doing that correctly. If that happens, and so this is part 2, and you haven't put it together in the right way, or you've been taken out of context, or very frequently what happens is folks write the article, media writes the article, and are just looking to insert a comment. And so you don't know that, but that's how it kind of works, is they've already got their take on the whole thing. You address it directly with the writer to correct the record, and then anybody who contacts you who's mad about that sort of thing, explain the whole thing. People get it, and you go, listen, this is what we were talking about. Here's how it was given in this vein or this context, and here is my feeling on the subject. And very frequently when these things happen, you end up having some kind of, I don't want to say canned response, but it's almost like a frequently asked questions guide about that issue, because we had an event, and that event was, we got a really bad article, and this is how it was meant to be. This is what I meant to say, and these are my real feelings on it. And that then can be communicated through email, or if somebody calls, however you want to do it. You just got to address it head on, because it happens. It happens to everybody. And everyone. Media's got a job, you've got a job, and so therein that will be some natural friction or tension, and you need to make sure that your side is accurately portrayed.
That's great advice for anybody who's leading and speaking today in this climate. It is not easy. Jason, one final question. Honestly, we could talk all day. Thank you so much. But should you get elected to the Senate, what are you excited about, looking forward to do there?
Great question. The Senate district, by nature of the Florida Constitution, is 3 times larger than a House district. We have 120 members of the House, 40 members of the Senate, and so you do the division, and so there's about 3 House seats in every Senate district, and so the constituent work will be 3 times more. Fortunately, you get a little bit more staff, and I really, whether it's a business license or some other, I like solving those problems for constituents. I think from a policy standpoint, I'm a healthcare guy by trade. That's what I did at Procter & Gamble. I was in their pharmaceutical division. I have a healthcare consulting practice that I do a little bit now with telemedicine and some of the things that are happening around the world with new technology. I really want to modernize what we do for our most vulnerable families. And so if you are already eligible for services, and I'm not talking about expanding thresholds or more for the folks that are getting it, if you're a vulnerable family and maybe it's a single parent, maybe somebody struggling with substance abuse or mental illness, it's not easy to figure out what you're eligible for and where you should go, even if you're already eligible for services. We're in a culture now where Netflix recommends what I watch on television, and Uber Eats lets me watch my sandwich drive down the street. Amazon Prime can get me garbage bags delivered tomorrow if I just get on my phone right now. And yet government can't tell you within a couple of weeks what you're eligible for and doesn't tell you where to go. And the technology has never been more accessible or cheaper than it is today, and we're just really bad at it. And we're really bad at it for the people that need it most. People don't seek government assistance if everything's fine. People seek government assistance when they need help. And so what I'm really excited to do is my service in the State House taught me where all this stuff is located. Service in the Senate will be about knitting it together so it's a better delivery mechanism for those that need it most. If you're a single parent struggling with substance abuse and mental illness, and maybe your child has a disability of some kind, you don't need to sit on hold for 14 minutes while somebody figures out the next phone number you're supposed to call that can get you a form to fill out you can then fax in to talk to somebody in 3 weeks. That's not helpful to anybody. And so I really want to make sure that whether it's calamity or circumstance, whatever your situation you're in, that government is accessible to you for what you're already eligible for. We don't need to make it harder for these folks that are already in a compromised situation.
Jason, I love that. I mean, both Drew and I work with the vulnerable a lot, and just hearing you say that, I mean, I've called on behalf of people before and had 40-minute waits to fax something in, and then I got to find a fax machine and figure out what a fax machine is and all.
Right. It's like somebody saying, "Well, here's the best movie you'll ever like. We've conveniently put it on a VHS VCR tape for you." Well, how does that help? How is that going to help me? And so I think. And I've done that before as well, is that my time in the House, people are just people. There's no handbook on how to serve in government. You get elected and everybody goes, well, you must be an expert. And you go, well, in the field I was in, yeah, but I'm not an expert in what your life is happening in your life right now. And there was a long learning curve for me. I was supposed to be the expert and I was having difficulty navigating the system. I can only imagine what it's like when you're experiencing that trauma or you've just experienced that trauma and you're trying to learn the system too. And so we need to have better advocates or more intuitive navigation for things that are already accessible.
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. Jason, how can people connect with you?
That's a great question. So I have a website, and it's jasonbrodeur.com. That's BRODEUR.com. And that's got everything from TV commercials we film, positions on all the issues that are important to the voters, biography information, all that kind of thing. And in that, you'll find ways to contact me directly. You can either email me at jason@jasonbrodeur.com, or I'm one of those maniacs that puts their cell phone number on everything. So 407-752-0258 is my cell phone number. And that's my real cell phone. That if you call that right now, this will ring. I spend a great amount of time talking to constituents potential constituents and voters, just about whatever's on their mind. Particularly at this time frame, there's a lot of anxiety, you all know, about this period causing some difficulties for folks they didn't ever anticipate having. And I talk to them about it. And so whether they, want to email or text or call, that it goes straight to me. All those do. I don't have a staffer watching these things. That goes to me.
Yeah. Well, I love that, Jason. Your vulnerability is so important in this day and age. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you so much for all you do for our city, for our county, and all you're doing within our state. We really appreciate your insight, and thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. This is great, and good luck. And if Castleberry needs anything, give me a holler. I'm ready to chat.
We got your cell phone number.
Yeah, you do. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Well, Drew, that was a whirlwind. Jason has a brilliant mind, a brilliant communication style, and I don't know about you, but he's so smart. I was struggling to keep up, and so grateful for him and his leadership within our county. Drew, as he gave us lots of information, as we prepare to wrap up, would you share with us some inspiration?
Absolutely. Good setup there. I loved Jason's passion for Castleberry and Seminole County as a whole. And this next gentleman has a similar passion. Pastor Andre Martin, who was our most recent guest on episode 22 and 23, I believe, said this during our conversation with him. The first step towards racial reconciliation is to have a willing heart. And the second is to be willing to come to the table. Let me read that again. The first step towards racial reconciliation, nay, I would say just reconciliation in general, is to have a willing heart. And the second is to be willing to come to the table. And my hopeful inspiration and encouragement to you, listener, from dear friend, Pastor Andre, is the idea of moving towards someone who is different than you. I think so often it's easy to speak about things, to point out and make observations and notes about what we have different from one another or what we maybe don't agree on. But I love Pastor Andre, not only his words, but his actions to identify the fact that it takes effort. It takes a willingness of heart and then the willingness and effort of action to move towards individuals who perhaps are different than you. So think about your life today. Think about who you know in your mind and in your heart that you need to move towards. Maybe it's somebody you work with. Maybe it's a neighbor down the street. But make those efforts. The first step is to have a willing heart. And the second is to take the action step of coming to the table. So I hope that encourages you as we have a great week.
Thanks, Drew. That is that's great. And I often dream about how wonderful the world would be if we were all prepared to come to that table. Thank you, listener, for staying with us. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. We hope you'll tune in again next week. We'll be back with some more great guests and great conversation. But just before we go, let me remind you that this podcast is produced by Robin Kepi and James Bittner. Music is provided by Jeremy Birdsall and graphics by Christian Viscoso. For more information on pod, check out our website, www.whatsupcastleberry.com, our Facebook page, Instagram, or podcast feed, all with the same name. Like and subscribe to our podcast, and please rate and review us. Until next time, have a fantastic week.